You cut mid-sized sedan's face pretty deep, Charles. And Charles is like, I'm sorry, it's so I thought he was going to harm me or my family just standing there doing nothing. And so, I did what any sane, rational person would do. And they're like, that's not so sane or rational, Charles, but you hold on to that knife for now. Anyway.
My name is Nate.
I'm Mike.
What the hell was that?
What the hell was that?
A very interesting experience, to say the least.
I expected it, to say the,
Yeah, I was holding out hope, honestly. Like, I didn't expect it to be that good, but I was hoping it would be like okay, you know what? That was not too bad.
I'm pretty ignorant to, like, directors, producers, like the actual people who create movies and the reputations that they gained and why they gained them. So, I'm pretty ignorant as to what made M. Night Shyamalan, like, the name/respected writer and director that he is.
Yeah, I won't go ahead to say that I do, but it's my understanding he just did have at least one or two movies. Like, The Sixth Sense was M. Night Shyamalan.
Yes, I know that.
Yeah, so just one really well-received, acclaimed movie. It had a twist, and then that just kind of became his thing.
Yeah, but look, I'm really hitting my head against the wall to think of any other person that started out with a really good movie and then made a bunch of very subpar, if not downright laughable movies and somehow still secures big funding, big billing, and promise from...
Yeah, I was about to say, I don't remember if we talked about this on the podcast or if it was in casual conversation, but I do remember us having a conversation along the lines of M. Night Shyamalan is like the one person that we can think of who just like seems to be failing upwards.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. But that's why I have to think that there has to be something to him that is either respected or noted. Something special that he accomplished in his career.
I don't know.
That isn't just like a really good movie.
I know he's from Philadelphia.
Okay.
And that's it.
Well, that explains it. Yeah, the Philly people.
They're not as sophisticated as you or I.
Right. Yeah. Sorry, Mom.
If you had to describe that movie in a few words, how would you do that?
Exactly what I expected. Honestly, the first thing that comes to mind is like rejected Twilight Zone Black Mirror pitch.
Yeah, that's a good one. Mine has to be something along the lines of unsure of itself. Yeah, there's just like...
I know this is supposed to be short, but I want you to clarify on that.
There's just so much going on, Like, there's not enough time to really, like, flesh anything out.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like, all right, let's throw a bunch of things at the wall and just, like, not even see what sticks. Put them all in the movie.
Right. It's really frenetic. And, evidently it's based off a graphic novel, right? And so I feel like knowing that it's based off a graphic novel, I can instantly see how the structure of the movie itself would play much better in a graphic novel than it would for a film. Because, in film, half the thing is, like, real-time experience of it, right? And so with, like, graphic novels, you're kind of used to getting attached to people over a couple panels or maybe a page versus, like, a movie where to actually feel an attachment with someone, you really need to spend actual time with that person. And I don't think anybody in the film really got that, especially because we spent so much time frenetically dashing between, like, the initial 7 people, whatever it was on the beach.
Yeah, that was kind of another point that I had. Before I knew that this was adapted from any kind of story,
right?
Kind of my first thought was, like, this feels like it would make, like, a good short story.
Right. Yeah.
But, yeah, that doesn't necessarily mean it makes a good movie, though.
Right, exactly. No, that is 100% my opinion as well. I feel like I feel like the graphic novel is probably much more
good.
Much more well adapted to this type of story and storytelling.
Yeah, I am interested to see the graphic novel now because I honestly think it probably has potential to be pretty good. But
right,
yeah, on-screen adaptation.
Yeah.
Not great.
Right. This is what's interesting is this is one of those movies where like oh boy did I as the plot was going on, I was in my brain being like, man, I'm going to have to recount this and I'm going to not that it's difficult to hold on to, but like I was so disengaged in general from whatever was going on with these people. Like dude, it didn't hit at all.
Actually, before we really get into it, that reminds me of another thing I wanted to say.
Right.
Shortly before the movie started, I checked the runtime.
Okay.
So it was about hour and 40 minutes, give or take.
Right.
And it was also rated PG-13.
Right.
And as far as like suspenseful thriller movies go, those two combinations seem to always spell out like this is probably not going to be a very good movie.
It does interest me that that's PG-13.
Yeah, it was a little bit more graphic than I expected.
Right.
But on the other hand, it certainly, if it was rated R, it would have been a lot more graphic with a lot of the content it had.
I feel like the R rating probably would have done it more of a service.
Oh, yeah, no, I think it, certainly.
Which is your point, right?
Well, yeah, that's exactly it. Is like with all these like horror, like again, this is more of a thriller than a horror, but they kind of tend to get like clumped together. So for the sake of my explanation of this, I'm just going to say horror is like the broad umbrella term.
Right.
Horror movies are a big money maker because everybody's going to go see them. All the high school kids are going to get their friends together and go see the newest horror movie.
Right.
And they tend to have relatively small budgets, especially in comparison to other movies. Mm-hmm. So, you have all these people, and this isn't exactly the case with this film.
Right.
But you have all of these studios and writers, I guess, who are like, oh, okay, we can just write a really like bottom of the barrel horror movie,
right?
And we'll make it PG-13 because that means more people get to come and see it, more money in our pocket, and then they spend very little money, or they have a low budget, so then any money they make, that's all profit. So that's kind of like
escape room.
Exactly, yeah. So that's kind of like the machine of like these horror thriller movies, and specifically these PG-13, really like half-baked ones.
Right.
And again, I think this one does differ a bit, but yeah, like whenever I see like a PG-13 horror movie, and again, the lower runtime, and that's more just because longer movies tend to be a little bit more complex. Right. Not to say there aren't good short movies. But yeah, when I see a combination of like a PG-13 thriller that is like less than 2 hours, I'm like, this is probably going to be a pretty subpar movie.
Right. And the fact that it's M. Night Shyamalan could probably key off to the point that it's going to be a pretty subpar movie at this point.
Like we were saying, I think I fall in that trap of, I don't know why, but every time I see M. Night Shyamalan, I'm like, this has got a chance. And it never does. I don't know why.
Well, I don't know too much about M. Night. I really don't. I haven't seen much of his work, but I mean, like,
maybe I'm succumbing to like just peer pressure. I guess not peer pressure, but just like this herd mentality.
Sold.
Like, I'm like everybody else is hype about this, so M. Night Shyamalan, he's gonna do it. He's our man.
Right. I don't know. I mean, like, my first exposure proper to M. Night Shyamalan was The Village. And I saw it when I was real young, and, I lost interest and got disengaged. Maybe one could argue because I was, like, 12, and, it's a bit of a slow burn. Maybe. Unless it's not, in which case, well, then your high-voltage, action-packed thriller still wasn't enough to engage my 12-year-old mind. And then after that, the next time I heard the name M. Night Shyamalan was The Last Airbender. And so...
And here we are.
And then I heard some dude go off on like a video essay on Lady in the Water, which is like M. Night's passion project, and how apparently flawed that was. So.
Man, what a great time, while we're sitting here like, who is M. Night Shyamalan again? What a great time to reiterate that we are not at all like in any way qualified to talk about. I mean, who the hell is qualified to talk about a movie? But we are definitely far from like respectable movie critics.
And like, look, I'm sorry to tell you, but the movie theaters are kind of mass market entertainment, baby. So if your movie can't appeal to some schmuck walking in there,
I completely agree.
Appreciation for the higher art of filmmaking, then I'm sorry, your movie's a failure.
The cinema students will disagree, but I will not.
No, look, I'm sorry. Your art film can be high-minded and all kinds of, I don't know, artsy-fartsy, whatever you want to call it, and still be entertaining to people who aren't able to engage with those higher-level kind of structural things. If your whole practice is to signal to people who can understand the finer details and reference of cinematography, and that is strictly the legs it has to stand on, I'm sorry.
Well, I think those people tend to also in the same way that there are music people who are I can't listen to popular music because it uses simple chord progressions and stays in a 4/4 time signature. And it's you can do interesting time stuff and do complex melodies, but also have it be listenable to somebody who is not versed in those things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Well, look, I mean, I have a bit of a thing on the critique of art and this whole stuff. So maybe this isn't the time for me to go off on the
user. You might want to listener. You might want to skip about 5 minutes.
But look, it's an impossible battle to quantify what makes art good. And anytime you're well, I think this is good because of these reasons, you do enough searching for 5 minutes and you'll find something that violates everything you think should make good art. And your stupid ape brain will go, well, I like it because it pushes some weird buttons in my ape brain. And that's just as valid. And that's how it goes. There's music that I know is just the most amateurishly written music I've ever heard in my life, but I was emotionally primed to receive it and received it at that time, and so there you go. I'm engaged with it now, and that's the nature of art. So it's ridiculous to try to bring out...
We are who we are.
Not that, no. Maybe if I were to listen to it, it'd take me back to my dance hall teenage days.
Yeah.
God, but no, look, it's impossible to pull out your fucking, compasses and sextants and start measuring, oh, well, this is exactly an 8.5 on the good art scale. It's ridiculous. So, that's my opinion on trying to rate or judge art in terms of its ability to be good or bad.
Well said.
Yeah, I think it could be professional, technical, whatever you want to call it, but that isn't the clearance bar for making it good.
Mm-hmm.
Now
you ready to get into this plot for real?
Yeah.
Yeah.
This is going to be the biggest practice of me struggling to try to recount this plot and not just every second just be fuck whatever, who cares, fuck whatever.
Yeah, we have a section for that, buddy. Come on.
Yeah, true.
Stick
All
to
right,
the structure.
So let's do this plot.
Okay, so we have. Oh, actually, you know what? I'm going to pull up the cast list so I can refer to people
Crystal,
by their names.
By the way,
Crystal. Yes, Crystal
is exactly the name of the character you think it is.
M. Night Shyamalan's old high school girlfriend, who he is. He's writing his happy ending from. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sweet Christ.
Old movie cast.
Brando, Nicholson, and Margaret. We should watch old movies sometime, by the way.
I'd
we
be
should
happy
find
to,
an
yeah.
old movie that isn't one of the big name ones, but just stars some random old person. Back when you watched movies for the names of the actors in them.
Yeah.
Because some of those really clear the bar for just being garbage.
Oh, I'd happily
old-timey
do that.
acting compounds with that to make it twice as hilarious.
You know who's at the top of the cast list?
M. Night Shyamalan?
M. Night Shyamalan.
Uh-huh.
He is the first person listed in the cast.
Bet he is. Bet he is.
Okay.
Followed closely by the leads of the movie.
Yep. Okay.
God damn
So we have Guy, who is the father of I would say our two leads.
Yes.
And his wife. Prissa, it looks like it's Prisca. How would you pronounce that, you think?
Yeah, I'd say Prissa.
Prissa? Okay, yeah. So Prissa and Guy, they are married, and they have two children who are Trent and Maddox.
Yes.
And they start by getting brought to... Well, I guess actually first they have a nice little moment while they're sitting in this van.
Mid-sized sedan? No.
No.
I'm sorry.
That'll make a little more sense in a minute. So they're in a van, They are being...
What's the size of the van, roughly?
I would say large.
Okay.
A bit more than mid-size. And so they are driving in a large van to the resort, and they're having moments of singing and being like, oh, I can't wait till I'm older. Oh, I'm so young.
This car, as with every character introduction in this movie, says we have to make the most of a 15-second window to get across as much of these characters as we possibly can, because that's about as much time as we have between all the frenetic nonsense that goes on in this film. So we have no time for development of character, you see. Like, we have to introduce these characters. But yeah, we're introduced to the daughter, who is
a child.
It's milquetoast. It's just like, oh, we need a girl, and they're like, okay, do you want any defining characteristics? No. What happens when we have like a girl roughly age 11 in films? I don't know. Just generally kind of aloof air of innocence. You know, this kind of Anne Frank energy, I guess. Yeah, and they're like, yeah.
Interesting choice.
Well, because look, that's kind of the whole point of Anne Frank, is like this point of like prevailing hopeful girlishness in the worst possible scenario, and how much that kind of prevails. And it's weird. It's very strange, and that's kind of like the story that gets brought out of that, right? Because it's almost like the template for like, see how well she maintained girlish composure under the worst circumstances. And it's like, okay, that's fair. Inspiring story as it is. You know, of course, I'm not sitting here to be like Anne Frank. Whatever.
Yeah, let's take her down a notch.
Yeah, of course. But like, no, that's every time they teach that story, all they talk about is how like, look, she's just a normal, bubbly, happy teenage girl with all the same puberty teenage girl things that we expect to see. And let's talk about that. And so, you know, yeah. So that's what I mean by that more specifically. So it's that's her defining characteristic. She's just a developing girl. Yay. And, you know, there you go. And then the son is neurologically divergent in some sense and speaks very literally and is somewhat of a prodigious nature and is, you know, speaks in very adult kind of phrases, which they, you know, accentuate at this time because the mom's like, sing for me, daughter. And the daughter's like, no, I'm self-conscious. I can't sing for you. And the kid who's 6 years old says like verbatim, like, her inspiration and spontaneity has been stripped by, you know, or whatever the fuck, right? It's exactly like that. And so we get that kind of highlight. And then the dad is dad.
Yeah, he's there.
And the mom is mom. You know, it's that's exactly it. It's three normal like you know, family unit characters in exactly the way you would design a family unit, and then the neurologically divergent son, who is prodigious in some sense.
And so they get brought to this resort, and they are then greeted with, welcome to our little version of paradise.
Yes.
And
Legend.
They're given drinks that were specially designed for them based on like a questionnaire thing that they presumably filled out before they came, or something like that. There was something like that anyway. Not super duper important.
Sure.
And then they're getting shown around the resort.
Yeah,
the children meet a young boy whose name I can't remember, and I don't feel like scrolling through this, and is not super important. But they meet this little boy, and Trent, the son, has a liking for him. They become friends.
Hey, you should try mixing the flavors of drink we have here. I'm a normal child.
Yeah.
And then the like prodigious child is like, oh, well, I make puzzles, 1,000-piece puzzles. I solve them in probably, I don't know, under 2 hours. So mixing drinks, sure, I'll go for it. And then the kid goes like, I collect conches. I have 42 conch shells. And like the prodigious kid is like, wow.
Yeah.
Neat. And then requests help filling his cup, because I guess this kid who solves puzzles and, you know, is far above conch collection can't figure out how to push down on a nozzle. And so he's like, I need some help filling my cup and mixing the flavors.
And then they find themselves in the room. The family has been escorted to their room. And then the kids are making a ruckus, running around, having fun. And this is where you get some kind of indication of the father's career.
Yes.
Where he's like, statistically, you will die if you hit this coffee table. So stop running, because I am an insurance man. And that's exactly how it goes. And so then the kids are like, okay. And then they go off to get changed into bathing suits. At which point, then the mother and the father talk and have a pretty empty conversation, I believe.
More or less, yeah.
Yeah. And then the kids come in, and then you see M. Night Shyamalan's humor really shining through, where he's like,
no kids week on the beach. Oh, well, that's it. And then the kids are like, Dad, no, it's not no kids week. He's like, no, it's no kids week all the time. And the mother smiles kindly upon them.
And then
M. Night must have had a wholesome ass upbringing.
Yeah, right.
This is the humor he was exposed to.
Good on him. You know, I don't even want to make fun of it now, because good for him.
Look, because neither do I really. But like, man, who watches this movie? It's just like, just like me and my family.
Yeah.
You know, like, I don't know.
Well, certainly not people from broken homes.
Yeah, okay, fair. My bias is coming through here. All right.
What the hell was that? We come from broken homes and we like movies.
But no, good on them. Good on them. Good on their family atmosphere.
Guy and Prissa have a moment where they are very heavy-handedly telling their problems to the audience.
Yeah, it's true. Prissa's like, I went to the doctor. It's nothing too bad to worry about. Don't worry about it. Let's just get through this and not tell the kids.
We have enough on our plate since we're considering separating.
Yes, exactly. So they're like, we got marital problems. We're probably splitting, but you have like this medical thing, and so we won't tell the kids about it quite yet, especially with the separation thing. Let's just resolve it. It's benign. We'll get it handled once we get back, and then we'll handle our marriage problems.
So cut to a beach.
Yay.
And there are two people
Yes.
on said beach. We have a attractive young lady who not a name is given. Yeah, I mean, I guess
sure.
there's a name. And then a man, attractive woman, takes off her clothes and gets in the water. And that's more or less the scene.
Yep.
And it's nighttime.
And the dude's just kind of sitting there, frankly, expressionless, just kind of chilling on a rock, just watching. And like she removes his clothes, and he doesn't like smile or be like, ooh, like he just stares indifferent into the distance, the middle distance, probably. and then she goes in the water as he stares into the middle distance. And that's that scene.
And then we have Trent. I don't know what Maddox is doing at this time, but Trent and the other boy whose name I can't remember are walking around the beach, and they are walking up to beachgoers and being like, "Hi, what's your name and what's your occupation?"
Yep.
To which,
occupation.
Yeah, and people oblige them with that information.
I'm a cop.
Yeah. There's a cop.
I'm
there's
a
a chef.
dancer.
There's another one.
Dancer. She's a dancer.
Oh, a dancer. Yes. And then that scene more or less ends.
Yeah.
And then from that point,
They tell the truth-telling game.
yes. Oh, yes, they do. They do. And I don't remember what comes from that.
The truth-telling game is that Trent can't do a push-up, and the kid whose name we can't remember doesn't have any friends.
Aww.
And Trent's like, don't worry, I'll get your number and we can FaceTime.
Yeah.
Then we can be friends. And the kid who has no friends is like, we'll see. I feel like I've gotten this FaceTime promise before.
So then I believe Trent might be going to be with his family, at which case the manager of the resort goes to the boy whose name we can't remember and is like, we told you not to talk to people. And then he like escorts him away.
Yep.
And then we hear a shattering and we see a woman having a seizure in the resort. And her nurse, who seems to be like a lifelong friend or something, they have a nice dynamic anyway, is then trying to help her. And this is where we are introduced to them, and they are named Patricia and Jaren. You are absolutely right. And this is also where we get introduced to some of our other characters. So we have another family who is sitting at a table, and it is a family unit of an older gentleman and a kind of middle-aged, on the younger side woman, and an elderly woman and a child. And that is Charles.
Right.
And
I'm going
Crystal.
like early 30s for Crystal.
So we have Charles, Crystal, Agnes, and Kara.
Yes.
And so at this point, they're having they're having breakfast, and the tension is kind of weird. But anyway,
I will note for the dinner scene of that family there, Crystal and Dr. Man, Charles,
yes,
are married.
Yes.
The older woman is Charles' mom.
Yes.
And Kara is Charles' daughter, and maybe Crystal came in later. And
I think it's Charles and Crystal.
Yeah, and so the person comes up, and Crystal is like, "I'll take your calcium blast smoothie." Does that actually have calcium in it, or is that just like a name? Because I need my calcium. I have a calcium deficiency. And the guy's like, "I assure you, it's full of calcium." And then she turns to her daughter, or like stepdaughter, or whatever, and she's like, "Kara, sit up straight.
You don't want to be ugly."
Yeah, you don't have a hunch, and like if it'll turn guys off." And then she like turns to the waiter fella, and you can tell she's very image conscious, and takes great joy in making sure that she's still attractive to the waiter man, as she's like, "Come closer and read my menu," almost uncomfortably close to me while I eyeball you with very wide eyes and a seductive smolder. And then the waiter seems pretty visibly uncomfortable about this, and Charles is all like, I don't like other men giving attention to the woman that I'm with. And then Ma has a dog. She's old.
Yes,
she has a dog. It's a Yorkie, and that's kind of the bit. And that's that family unit.
Ba-da-ba-ba-da-ba.
Womp.
Then the lady is having a seizure, and then this is when we learn that Charles is a doctor. So he goes to help them out, and by help them out, I mean he goes, she's all right. All right.
Get her some water.
Yeah, and then he says...
Have her lie down on a pillow or something.
He says Jaren's name wrong after he introduces himself.
Yeah,
he's like, "It's Jaren," and then he walks away. And so then after the seizures of Patricia, and that is solved, we then have our main family unit, which again is Maddox, Trent, Guy, and Prissa.
Yes.
And they are... having lunch or something at this table, to which the resort manager comes up to them and is like, "Oh, what are your plans today?" And they're like, "Oh, we were thinking about going jet skiing because Trent really wants to, but Maddox wants to do anything but that." To which the manager's like, "Well, you know what? I like you guys, and we don't tell everybody about this, but there's this really special beach that's just beautiful. It's a private beach. Hardly anybody knows about it. I can set up a van and have you guys taken there if you'd like." And they're like, "Huh, I don't see why not. That sounds pretty darn nice."
Right.
So they do that. And I don't believe that we are shown on screen him doing this with Charles and family as well. But either way, they are also in this van when it is time to go. They get in the van. They drive, and who else is the driver other than our boy M. Night Shyamalan making his cameo?
Anyway, let's go to the beach each.
So they go to the beach.
Let's go get away.
Okay.
Just for future reference, because this is going to happen a lot.
It will. So then our party is then escorted to a place where they are dropped off, and M. Night Shyamalan says, "Here's a bunch of food." And the doctor, or no, not the doctor, Guy, the father of our main family, is like, "This is a lot of food." And he's like, "You're going to need it." So then M. Night Shyamalan is like, "Okay, you guys can call us whenever, and we'll come pick you up, or we'll be back here at 5 p.m. Bye." And then Dr. Man is like, "What the hell? Aren't you going to help us carry stuff to the beach? We have an elderly woman and children." And M. Night Shyamalan's like, "Nope, bye."
in pretty much that exact delivery. He's like, "I have to get back. We have things to do. Enjoy."
You can do it.
Yeah.
So they make it to the beach. So now we have the families coming to the beach and getting their stuff set up.
It's kind of
pretty typical.
I'm trying to do it much more silently. So I'm doing it every time.
Yeah. Pretty typical beach stuff. Well, I guess at some point the child Maddox, she exclaims, "Oh my God, that man over there is the rapper, Mid-Sized Sedan."
Mid-Sized Sedan, the rapper, yes.
The families are setting up their things. They're having a good old time.
The doctor goes to set up his umbrella, sees the dude staring into the middle distance still there, notices that his skin color is of the brown variety, and says, "Let's set our umbrella up a little bit closer to the water. It'll be prettier there."
Yeah, so then we have everybody setting up on the beach, having a good old beachy time, and the kids get in the water and they're playing and having a good old time.
Yay, splash,
and Trent, at some point, ends up kind of like going off on his own in the water. Like Kara and Maddox are playing together or something, and Trent is just having a good old time by himself. And then a dead body floats into him.
Dun dun.
And he freaks out, understandably. And then the entire party here finds the body and starts to investigate it.
Yep. It is the body of the woman who stripped naked and went swimming, but the night before. Now washed back.
So at this point, I believe Mid-Sized Sedan is like, "Oh shit, she's dead. I was wondering what happened to her."
Naturally.
Or something like that.
Yeah, no, more or less. He's just like, damn.
And some people, and by some people I mean Charles, are like really suspicious of this.
Yeah.
And then they're all just like, "Damn, there's a dead body here. We should probably get help."
This is pretty insane. Yeah, absolutely.
And I think it's at that moment that we then have Patricia and Jaren come onto the beach as well, and they're like, "Hey, everybody, we stayed back a little bit because Patricia needed some rest after her seizure, but we're here now." And then that's when Guy is like, "Oh no, wait, we need to get the driver." And he's like, "Oh no, he already left. What's wrong?" It's like, "There's a dead body."
Bum, bum, bum,
And yeah, so there is a dead body, and they cover up the dead body and try to figure out how they can contact help because there is no cell phone service here, and I don't think anybody has tried to get out at this point.
Not really, no.
No.
Which is strange, right? Like the dead body happens, and there's not a single person that's just like, "I'll go back to the entrance."
So we have the dead body, and then we also have Prissa noticing that the shorts for Trent are a lot tighter than they were before, and she's like, "What's up with this?" And so then she tries to get the doctor and say, "Can you please look at my son? I have credentials. I'm not crazy. Look at my son, please."
Right. Yeah. Exactly.
And so then he's trying to look at the son. He's also trying to examine this dead body. And anything else going on at that moment?
She's kind of musing to all non-black people, just like, "I think the black guy killed this woman."
Yeah,
I think the black guy might have killed this woman. I don't know about you, but I feel like the black guy might have killed this woman. And then he says, "Oh, I'm just worried because she was the only person here with her, and it's not, it's not a..."
His nose is bleeding, so maybe she'll put up a struggle.
Yeah.
But yeah, so anyway, he's like, "I don't trust black people." There's a dead body he's trying to look at. There's also a weird thing going on with kids that he doesn't know about.
Yeah.
And his mother is like, "Oh, this is all so stressful."
Oh, boy. I'm going to lay down. My heart feels strange.
So then he verbally is like, "I can't do all of this at once. Everybody leave me alone."
Yeah. Because he's more like, "Look, I'm a great doctor. I would know if something's wrong with yours." Yes, I'm a wonderful doctor. The best doctor. I know great doctors. I went to Dr. Harvard. Yeah, I'm looking at your kid. He seems fine. Get out of my hair.
Yeah.
So this is kind of like the first time, kind of, because the kid, Trent, has this quirky thing about him where he goes up and says, "Who are you? What's your occupation?" So he goes up to Patricia and Jaren, and he's like, "Who are you? What's your occupation?" And Jaren's like, I nurse things. And Patricia's like, I don't know.
I am a psychiatrist.
Psychiatrist, goddamn. And then Jaren goes, wait, let me guess your age.
Or psychology something, anyway.
Sure. But he's like, let me guess your age.
I'm really good at this.
I'm really good at this.
And Maddox and Trent are both there.
And the camera's doing some real struggle stuff just to make sure we never see any perspective of these children since they've like arrived on this fucking beach and discovered the body. To see them in any kind of way or light, like we see an elbow here, maybe like a foot there, you know, like weird. And so the camera's doing a lot of legwork to make sure we don't see these kids. And Jaren's like, whose
voices are a little different all of a sudden.
Yeah, exactly. Weirdly. Yeah,
I wonder what that's about.
The balancing in that was fucking strange for sure. It almost felt very detached from the bodies themselves. Yes, it sounded like two people in a booth off screen, right? It didn't sound like it was coming out of the characters. Like,
yeah, so Jaren is like, I bet that you, Trent, are 11 years old. And he's like, no, I'm 6.
And then Jaren and Patricia have like a face drop where they're like, huh?
No, but really, you're 11 years old,
like,
right?
It's sensible to be off like, you know, a year or two, but like dude, that's like twice as old. Like you're not 11. I mean, you're not 6. You're clearly like, you know.
And then Maddox is like, no, really, I am insert age because I don't remember.
11. She's 11.
I'm 11, and he's 6. He just turned 6, and then he's like 6 1/4 to be precise. Yeah. To which then Jaren and Patricia, and I felt this was particularly weird, like not in like any like kind of particularly hushed tone. We're like, all right, they're fucking with us. Okay, let's drop it.
Yeah.
So, other icebreaker, very surface level questions. At which point, then Prissa comes up and is like, have you seen my children? And they're like, come on, is everybody playing some kind of joke on us? These are your kids, aren't they?
Right.
And she's like, huh?
Right.
To which they're like, Mom, what's going on?
Oh, what's this?
And then the reveal, the kids are old.
Oh my!
And yeah, so then the father and the mother both come over and are confused.
Yeah,
obviously. So then Jaren is like, you know what? This is crazy. You guys stay here. I'm gonna go get some help.
Right.
So Jaren decides to try and go get some help, and he goes through the entrance that they came in, and his head starts feeling weird. Next thing you know, he wakes up right at the entrance, and everybody's like, "Oh yeah, you like blacked out and stumbled out."
Oh, and then Charles' mom dies.
Yeah, his mom dies, and he's like, "It must have been the shock of the
death.
dead body."
Yeah, the most common death amongst old people seeing dead bodies.
Yeah,
shock death.
So Mama Agnes is dead,
and this is when Mid-sized Sedan is like, "Well, fuck this, I'm out," and sprints full on for the exit, whatever that may mean.
To which then Charles is like, a black man running, I must follow him.
This is a sure sign of guilt if I've ever seen one.
Yeah, so then he chases after Mid-sized Sedan, and they both go through that same entrance that Jaren went through, and both black out.
Yep. And then wake up back in the same blackout redemption spot.
Whoa.
So they respawn on the beach.
So then they're all just kind of like being like, wow, that was weird.
Right.
I can't remember. Do they look at the body again now?
This seems like the natural point where I guess we should bring up the body thing. Like, honestly, we could seriously just do like a list of the effects that happen to these people completely out of order, and it would have no bearing on the narrative almost whatsoever. Well, so at this point, someone's like, let's go check on that body for medical reasons, maybe. And they pull up the towel that they covered the body with, and it's bones. For some reason, they added, like, clackety bone sounds. When they, like skeleton sounds.
Spooky, scary skeletons.
But, like, none of the bones are moving, so what are the clackety bone noises for?
Yeah.
That makes no sense. Anyway.
Yeah, so then they're all like, science and stuff. In these conditions, this body should have taken 7 years to decompose. But what? It's been like an hour?
Yeah, they get so needlessly precise with this. like, I don't know what it is. It's like they have to do the legwork of like medical legitimacy to make this movie seem like it's anything but the most ridiculous premise ever put to film. Because they're like, whoa, oh my God, why? How could this have? How long would it have taken for Bones to happen? And then like Prissa's like, I don't do this hyper-specific field. I'm in this other three-worded hyper-specific field, and it depends on environment and soil conditions and direct exposure to the light. But if I had to do a roundabout guess, I'd say almost 7 years for a body to decompose like that.
I feel like the same message would have been conveyed if it was like, it should take years for this to happen. Yeah. Anyway, they do just that. And so Charles is just kind of like standing around weirdly and pulls out a knife and slashes at mid-sized sedan and slashes his face. So then everybody's like, yo, Charles, you got to take it easy.
You forgot the spookiest part about the knife slash, though.
Oh, yeah, of course.
They're all like, you cut mid-sized sedan's face pretty deep, Charles. And Charles is like, I'm sorry. It's so I thought he was going to harm me or my family just standing there doing nothing. And so, you know, I did what any sane, rational person would do. And they're like, that's not so sane or rational, Charles, but you hold on to that knife for now. Anyway.
And
so
then
they're like, let's get a look at that terrible cut on your face mid-size.
And he's like, I don't even feel it. I must be going into shock.
Uh-huh. And then he pulls his hand away.
And it's fully healed and scarred over.
Oh, how? That should have taken months, years to have. I don't. This is so. How?
What is going on?
Time? Maybe time?
Yeah, I think actually, yeah, that's when fucking Jaren just goes like, he just says what's on everybody's mind. Time is moving differently on this beach, and he states it very matter-of-fact-like.
Yeah, and everyone else, I guess, is still struggling to put the pieces together, because he's very much just like, yeah, it seems like time's moving quicker here, and everyone else...
I read a graphic novel with that concept once.
But everyone else, for some reason, I guess, like, disbelief or whatever the fucking issue is, but they're all just kind of like, man, we gotta figure out... All these things are happening. It's so strange. What could be the unifying factor between all these instances? I don't understand.
Mm-hmm. Then this is, I think, the point where mid-sized sedan, who we also through a weird like moment with Maddox learned that his name is Brandon.
Yes.
But we'll continue to call him mid-sized sedan. So mid-sized sedan then discloses that he just met the lady who was now Bones. Yeah. He that night he did not know her. They were both
Bones.
Bones.
Old Bones. We
yeah,
go back
old
to
Boney.
yesterday.
So he met Bones like at the resort. They both came to this resort, and they both have a medical condition that is very much stressing them out. Bones was recently diagnosed with MS, and mid-sized sedan had a blood clot issue, which I think that is the deal with his nose bleeding.
Right.
But anyway, he was like, yeah, I came here because I needed to get away from it all, get a new perspective, because I was hit with this heavy news that I have this like rare blood clot thing, and I just met her, yada, yada, yada. So then Patricia is like, I'm a psychologist. I think that we are making this up in our brains because we all seem to have medical problems and we're insane. Yeah, so then...
Collective psychosis. I read about that in a book, you know. We only think we can't leave this island beach, and it's not an island, it's a beach.
Yeah.
Each, and then she says, that's why we're blacking out, because for some reason our brains are tricking us into thinking if we go too far, we got to pass out because we can't leave this beach each.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So then they all have a moment where they're like, "This is my problem. This is my problem." And they do that, and it doesn't really have any real bearing on anything.
And then Charles goes, I don't have a problem.
This is the point where they then decide, okay, let's break into teams of two. Let's go in different directions and ways, and let's try to find our way out of here. And yeah, so then they do that, tasteful edit where they all then wake up blacked out in various spots across the beach, and they're like, damn, I guess there's not a way out. This is going to be a very edit-heavy episode.
The narrative isn't even, like, consequential to this nonsense. Like, it's just
no,
like,
you're
time
absolutely
moves
right.
faster. Here's a series of events that if you sat around in a room with your friends over coffee at midnight and thought, what are some things that might happen if time moved faster? Here's a list of some of those things you might come up with.
Yes.
Let's say you were on an island where time moved faster, and you came into the island with perhaps a benign tumor in your hip area. What do you think might have happened to that tumor if time was progressing unreasonably fast?
Maybe it would grow at an unprecedented rate.
Perhaps it would. Maybe the pain of that unprecedented rate of growth would cause you to pass out almost.
Prissa ends up passing out in a very ideal way to have her tumor exposed. So everybody's feeling it, and they're like, it's like a golf ball. No, it's more like a softball. It's like a cantaloupe.
Yep.
Anyway, this tumor is getting bigger. So then after some debate and stuff of what are we going to do, Guy makes the call of, we have alcohol here. We have a knife. We got to do something, and we got to do it now.
Right.
So then they have Charles perform surgery.
Who's like, you can't sue if this goes wrong.
And they're like, yeah.
Okay, buddy.
We know.
Yeah, right.
And so then...
Now, cut my wife, please.
Charles is about to make the first incision.
He's like, I don't have a problem.
And everybody's like, okay, nobody said you did. And he's like, what was that movie that Jack Nicholson and Marlon Brando
Did you know that
in?
Marlon Brando and Jack Nicholson were in a film together?
And everybody's
What was the name of that
like,
film?
tumor?
What was that film called? And his wife kind of goes like, eyes side to side, just like, honey.
Yeah, really like tugging the collar.
She's like, you're in the beach surgery room.
Honey, you're informing the audience that you might have dementia.
you might have a medical problem that might have something to do with a lack of ability to memorize.
To remember
to
things?
recall stuff.
I don't know. Anyway, yeah,
Cut this
he's
man's wife.
He's going in and out of it. He's got to cut a man's wife, and he does just that. But time moves faster here, so
and as we saw with midsize.
So the wound heals almost instantly.
Fuck.
To which Jaren is like, you know what? We just got to shove our fingers in there. You know what? And that's exactly what they do. They cut again. They put their fingers in there. It is interestingly they show more than you'd expect, but also less than you'd expect.
Yeah.
And they do just that. And then they pull out a very large tumor.
What I thought at this scene was like when you're in the room and you're like, okay, so you got the tumor, you got to operate, time moves faster than possible. So you cut him open, but it heals instantly. It's like, yeah, let's have everybody shove their fingers in there and hold it open. It's like, yeah, but wouldn't they also feel the counterforce of it constantly trying to close? And you're like, you're right. Have somebody throw out a line about how it feels like it's trying to close, and you can feel it putting force on their fingers trying to close. And they go, yeah, you know what? That'll help them end this continuity issue. So Jaren, as he's holding open the wound, goes, if I feel it pulling against my fingers trying to close.
Yes.
Anyway.
Yeah, so they pull the tumor out, and then they're like, oh, no, she died. But then, oh, yes, she wakes up. She didn't die. And she's like, wow, I feel like I don't have a tumor anymore.
I feel like something roughly the size of a cantaloupe was removed from my body.
And while all of this is going on, we have Trent and Kara hanging out on the other side of the beach. And
Kara's like, Trent, I'm scared. And Trent's like, I know how to amend this. I'll put hands on you.
Yeah, and without explicitly saying it, they I guess have sex. Yeah, I don't know what to say about that.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm just glad they didn't get graphic with it.
I am
the age of these
also
kids is ambiguous.
Yeah, it's very much like a kind of like we were talking about in Invincible. Spoiler alert for Invincible, I guess.
Right.
Just like the weird the weird dynamic between Robot and Monster Girl.
Right.
Yeah. Either way, yeah. Let's not dwell on it too much. It's weird. They have sex.
There's a couple moments like that, frankly.
Yeah.
Like when the kids first age, like there's a weird kind of like male gazy shot. It's very strange how they decide to frame these things in camera. Anyway.
So then everybody's like, hey, where are they? And they're like, hey, we're over here. And then guess what? Kara is now becoming pregnant / has been pregnant for what is equivalent to like 5 months in real time.
Yeah.
And then everybody's... Oh, and then at some point the dog dies, and the doctor is like, but she was just alive.
Greatest doctor in the world, exactly. What's the opposite of dead? What happens before you die? What are you before death? Oh my God.
She's dead, but she was just alive a minute ago.
I don't understand. That's not how this usually works. Oh.
Yes, then you have pregnant Kara, who then is just about immediately going into labor.
Uh-huh.
And has a child, while Crystal is like, I can't deal with this, and then runs away, while Kara is like, I'm scared.
And Dad and Trent are kind of in the... Guy and Trent are kind of in the corner, just like, dude, what the hell? And Trent's like, I thought you had to have, like, sex 10 times, roughly, to have, like, a pregnancy happen. And the guy's like, no, it can happen only after one time. Trent's like, well, I feel excited to be a father, because I guess I'm of that age. My paternal instinct's kicking in, Pa. Make me a dad.
Yeah, and so he's pretty much like, you know what? I'm going to marry her and everything's going to be okay. Yeah. And then pretty much immediately after that, Patricia's like, it died.
Seriously, just like that.
Yeah.
Like, seriously, like, you know, they're talking to me. He's like, I can't wait to be a dad. And, like, over in the corner, it's like, she's arrived. She's dead.
And everybody's like, what happened? It's like, she died from lack of attention.
Which I'm sure is a real thing. But, like, of the reasons to bring up, like, what the what?
Yeah, I feel like you could lead pretty quickly with just like, I guess a baby probably can't survive an accelerated time rate.
Yeah. They're like, oh, they're coming out, and like, you know, I'm sure there's all kinds of stuff you have to do to keep a child alive relatively quickly in a short time span, or what have you.
Yeah.
You know, like a newborn baby probably can't go like 3 hours without something or something like that. I don't know. I'm sure. I've never had a baby. I'll have to ask my mom. I'll be like, hey, Mom, look. Anyway, yeah. So lack of attention, which I'm sure is a real thing for children to die with.
I agree, but yeah, like, it was a weird way. Yeah.
Ridiculous. Like, not even just like, seriously, one line continuously from the birth of like Patricia just being like, it's here. Oh, she died. Oh, it must have gone too long without anybody. She died from lack of attention. And then that's that baby. And then I think like Charles or Guy or somebody's just like, we can't have children can't survive in this time accelerated field.
Yeah, somebody says that.
They're babies. They're
babies.
Freshly born children. Fresh out of the human body.
Yeah, I mean, so then, they're
like,
everybody's
wanders off like, my babies.
My baby's baby.
Too much. I'm out. Y'all.
Baby is dead. And then while baby is born and died, we pan over to Charles with that same knife, stabbing Mid-Size to death. And Patricia is like, he's being stabbed to death. So he does just that. He gets stabbed to death, and then Jaren and Guy approach Charles, who is like in a corner, and takes the knife away from him calmly, to which the knife then gets put in Prissa's bag.
Yeah. And, you know, like... Charles is clearly not of sound mind at this point. Like, I mean, like, he's racist, but like, he's not stabbing Mid-Sized because he's like,
I hate black
I'm
people,
a fully
which
sound
I
mind
do.
and, you know, irrational. I mean, he is irrational, but like, you know, and furthermore, he's not like completely dementia gone. He's just like slightly dementia gone. So you could tell, like, he just got really paranoid from the dementia, I assume, and was just like, Mid-Size was going to kill us. He was going to kill us all. I had to take care of him. He killed that woman. He would kill us. And they're like, okay, buddy, we're going to take this knife now. And now he's just kind of saying, like, he's not actually saying it, but like every time I see him, all I can hear him like muttering to himself is like, Brando Nicholson. Brando Nicholson. Brando. Movie. What's the name of that movie? What's the name of that? So that's kind of Charles now.
Yeah.
He's not really in the movie anymore.
This is the point where Jaren is like, you know what? I'm going to swim out and try to get help.
Yep.
And so he swims out, and then we're like, all right, check in with you later, Jaren.
Right.
And then at some point here, we have Maddox and Prissa have like a heart-to-heart moment in which it is revealed that Prissa was unfaithful to Guy.
Yeah.
And Maddox is shocked by this. She learns that they were going to get separated, in addition to learning about the infidelity, and she is just overcome by this emotion.
And so she starts to walk out into the water.
And she does. And then she is walking in the water. She's trying to clear her head, and she stumbles into a dead body of Jaren, who didn't make it.
Dead body.
Wah, wah, wah.
And I guess she was just caught completely off guard and unexpected with this because she has a good freak out about it.
Yeah.
Which, not to imply that a dead body isn't something to freak out no matter how often you're exposed to it, of course, but, like, I feel like we probably all should have, like, steeled ourselves for the expectation that Jaren might wash back dead.
Yeah.
So I don't know. But he's dead. And at this point, they're like, right, every time we try to leave this island within a certain radius, we all pass out, so...
Yeah, so Crystal is just, like, nowhere to be seen, and then Kara is like, you know what? My dad could hurt people. I'm going to climb up these rocks. This is the way to do it. Like,
oh, well, interestingly enough, Kara has been carrying the dead body of her child around.
Yeah.
In a weird kind of, like, mental persistence that her child is not, in fact, dead. And at this point, it's just a towel of bones.
Mm-hmm.
So Trent takes it, and he's like, I'm going to bury this towel of bones. And the music gets very heavy, and it's like, for, like... It's not even a character. It's just a series of lines and then a towel of bones. Like, seriously, honestly, it's just
no,
like...
it's true.
No, a conceptual baby was dead. A conceptual baby is being carried. And now we have a towel of bones. That was once a conceptual baby. Aren't we all so sad about the death? So they take a real long time to, like, set it aside and bury it and, like, do sad music. And I'm like, dude, essentially you just, like, walked into a room and be like, think about a baby. It's dead now. Aren't you shook?
Abortion is murder.
Like, dude, whatever. So they do that, and then Kara's like, I will climb to freedom.
And yeah, so Kara is like, my dad could hurt people. I'm going to climb to freedom. So she starts climbing, and everybody, basically the family that we have, that have been the main protagonists.
Oh, Charles is demented.
Mm-hmm.
Patricia...
I think she's around, but I don't know what she's doing right now.
Yeah. And then Crystal walks off. So it's really just the family engaged in this, and they're like, Kara,
yeah, Kara, get down, please. You're gonna and yeah, so they're all like, very much like, get down from there, please, please, please. But then she gets high enough, and then they're kind of like, actually, you seem to be doing all right. Yeah, yeah, you could be our way out. And then they're like, wait, why'd she stop? I wonder why. And yeah, so then she passes out and falls from the very, very high rocks onto other rocks.
Or sand or whatever.
And dies.
Yeah, falls from a height, dies.
Yet another death. And Trent, as you can imagine, takes this pretty hard.
Yeah, kind of.
But life goes on the fast beach.
Yeah, I suppose that's really nice. Time heals all wounds and time moves pretty quickly. So there you go. There's a reason for everyone to kind of get over this stuff.
To which point, I believe Patricia is like, you know what? I have these pool noodles that have been around. I'm gonna use them as a makeshift raft, and I'm gonna go out
type thing.
Yeah,
because if we pass out in the water and die and drown, it's better that I pass out on this
and not drown.
Vest, and then I'll wake up and come to and continue to progress out.
Yeah, and so then she's like, yeah, I'm gonna do this. I got family to heal things with. I got to get off this beach. Yeah. And then she starts walking towards the water and then has a seizure and dies.
Well, the way they pitch it is she has a seizure, but time is moving so quickly that she's having the seizure, stopping from having the seizure, but before she can recover from having the seizure, her body's primed to have another seizure. So now she's just infinitely looping seizures in the time delay, and so dies from that kind of thing where, like, her body can't properly recover from the series of seizures she's having.
That makes sense.
Yep. So,
well, I mean, it doesn't make sense, but within the context of this stupid movie, that makes sense.
Pitch. So there you go. That's how she eats it.
Yeah. So she's dead, and now we're left with Crazy Charles, our family, and Crystal, who is nowhere to be found.
Yes.
And so I think at this point, or at some point. It doesn't fucking matter when.
No,
We see Crystal, who is aged a bit, and she is quite perturbed by this. And she's like, "Don't look at me," and then she really kind of goes off and fucks off, and we just don't see her for a while.
She comes back and like looks in a metal lunchbox and sees her back is kind of curled, and she's like, "My calcium! I have a calcium deficiency. This is what that calcium power shake was meant to deter.
My beautiful back is all hunched.
Help me." And, so she's getting hunchy, and, they do, like, the drippy kind of, like, makeup that makes it seem like, like, you might see, like, witches or hags in traditional movies.
And she's, like, covering herself.
Yeah. But the problem is, this is a very attractive young woman, and so, like, even trying to make her look old and unattractive, she doesn't look that old and unattractive.
Yeah.
So,
anyway, so she fucks off. Charles has been fucking off for quite some time, and so then I think at this point, we start to see Guy's vision start to blur.
Yeah, he's trying to look at his beautiful wife and his children, and he's like, "Oh, my eyes are blurring. I'm getting older, perhaps."
And some time around that, also, Prissa covers her one ear to find that she's gone deaf in one ear.
Yeah, so she can't hear out one side, and, he's getting old. And the children are,
aging, doing their thing.
Doing whatever. So, at this point, Cataract Man and the half-deaf wife.
Cataracts Man and the half-deaf broad.
I made a note to try to, like, not laugh so often immediately after I say stuff, because it makes me sound so incredibly self-indulgent when I'm like, this will sound funny, but then you laugh, and then I laugh, and I'm just like, I sound like I'm laughing at my own jokes constantly. I'm just like, I think I'm clever.
You gotta own it.
Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, but I'm trying to keep a straight face more, so I don't just sound like an incredibly self-indulgent hack, just like laughing at myself all the time. So the man with the cataract problem and his wife, who's deaf in one ear, are like, Cataract Man is like, "I know about your affair," and the wife is like, "Huh?" And he's like, "Turn your head," and he's like, "I know about your affair," and she's like, "Oh," and he's like, "I don't have any real complaints about it, but my only complaint is that the man you chose is much more inferior
to me.
And it's like, you should have chosen someone cooler to have an affair with.
And they're like, okay, and then move
and his wife
on.
is like, that's a weird criticism to have. I feel like you should be mad at this and also mad at me about this. And he's like, no, you just chose a dweeb, which is really my problem, more or less. And she's like, okay. And while they're doing this, Sneaky Charles has taken like a shot that's like straight out of like the Grinch movie, and like picks the knife out of the handbag. And that's the only thing like framed. And so like it's like this hand just comes from like off screen and like picks a knife out of the bag and like withdraws it.
Oh god!
And it's like, oh boy, Charles.
And then he like crawls like a spider.
Yeah.
Along the beach, and you see a very blurry image of him doing this, and you're like, I remember I looked at Mike and I was like, oh my god, he can't see it and she can't hear it.
Which was a joke, but that's literally how they play it. Like he happens to be sitting on on
the beach next to
what's her name?
Prissa. He's sitting on Prissa's deaf side. Yeah.
And so he's screaming as Charles is like trying to hack it. If he gets better, he's like, Charles, what? Charles. He's like, Prissa, help me. But she's like she's staring into the middle distance, like over at the fucking like water. And he's just like, oh God. So like Charles is like slicing at him. But as we know, scars instantly heal. So like he's like guarding with his hand. He's like, God damn it. Like,
yeah, ow.
Prissa. And she's like, oh, la 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 la.
And at which point Charles then takes the opportunity to be like, look, I killed Midsize Sedan because he was going to come and go to my home and rob me. It wasn't a race thing, but it was a race thing.
Clearly it's a race
thing.
And he's like, and you're going to report me to the police if we ever go off to this island.
So now I have to kill you.
Yeah. Well,
so we have Charles hacking at him and trying to kill them for his aforementioned reasons.
Yeah.
And then Guy says, go,
yeah.
help the children. I'll fend him off. So then Prissa runs to help the children.
As in the distance, the sound fades. Charles, stop it. God, come on, man.
Only out of one side, though. And
Damn it.
so then Prissa is just like, don't ask questions. Go hide somewhere safe. And they're like, okay. So then Prissa then goes back to help Guy while the children then go and hide in this cavern for safety.
The familiar exit cavern. They're just kind of chilling there a bit.
Yeah, like not all the way in or something. I don't know. Maybe it's a different cavern. Either way, they're not being blacked out. They're just like hiding in a little cave. Yeah. And so then Trent happens to have a book of matches.
Yeah, they were rooting around some like old stuff. They found a journal and shit.
I think they came.
Whatever.
Oh yeah.
We'll get back to that.
He lights said match to illuminate the cave to find a hideous hag. Oh wait, no, it's Crystal.
Yeah.
And yeah, again, they like.
Seriously, she doesn't look like a hideous hag, which is why it seems almost even more like diluted, where they're just like, oh my God, I'm so ugly.
And
like,
in fact, so much so that she picks up a rock and's like, turn the light off.
Yeah, she's
meaning
like, don't look
put
at
the
me.
match out.
Yeah. So that happens, and
then he just continues to like
matches,
and she continues to throw rocks.
Yeah.
And then she decides,
I've been throwing small rocks. I'm going to throw a medium-sized rock.
Well, she's just like, you know what? If you're not going to turn off that light, I'll have to kill you.
Yeah, or something.
And so then she holds a big rock over her head, but her calcium-deficient bones cause her arm to break, and the rock falls on her. And then, because time moves so quickly, her arm heals in the not correct position.
Right.
And then things continue to break.
Well, yeah, she tries walking towards them, and her bones are just fragile and fragile and fragile, and so they snap and snap and snap. When we get
much like the infinite loop of seizures, she infinitely breaks bones that then instantly heal to then break.
Yeah, and so she's rolling around in pain and snapping her bones and rehealing them, and they're getting all 90-degree angles and stuff like that. So, body horror. Hey, we finally have some body horror. Look at that.
Yeah, and so she
it's
is
all kind of mangled.
dead.
Yeah, as a faint whisper comes from off screen.
Then we have Prissa. She grabs a rusted knife that came from the resort at some point. Prissa slashes the doctor with this rusted knife, to which he's like, "Ow, what the hell?" And then she's like, "That is a rusted knife, and rust is poison to you."
Yeah. Consider tetanus.
And so then he dies of tetanus.
Yeah, which I guess makes your body spread like a black kind of patchy.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never had tetanus. I've always gotten my tetanus shot.
Yeah,
What do you think he would as a doctor?
Well, I mean, it's been some time.
Yeah. Also, I don't know. Rust probably is not good for you even if you have had a tetanus shot.
Probably not, but that's what tetanus shots protect against, like rusty nails if you ever step on one or whatever.
That's fair.
The only thing I've ever seen of tetanus is like a dude like locking up, like his entire like muscles like kind of like locked together, and you have this.
I have bone-itis.
Yeah, kind of like that.
Yeah.
Honestly, kind of like that. So I guess Charles dies of the tetanus, and Crystal
is dead of body horror.
They never like show like her death, but she's just kind of like
she
there, bone cracked and stuff.
So then we have our family unit sitting with each other.
Yeah.
And the father and the mother are like, you know what? I feel a lot older now.
Yeah.
And I forgive you of infidelity. And I forgive you of being upset that the guy was a dweeb.
Not only that, but like Guy is like, what are we fighting about? Prissa's like, it doesn't matter, dear.
Yeah, well, what a great way to like bury the lead. It's like, what were we fighting about? Oh, nothing important. Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I forgive you.
Yeah, and he's like, why do we want to leave this beach? And she's like,
so beautiful.
Oh, it's a nice beach, isn't it, dear? And what I really like is that Maddox seems to know Maddox, I don't know if this is like a cruel bit of irony on her hand, but she grabs the old ladiest looking blanket on the island and drapes it around her mother's like neck and upper half and gives her like the old ladiest looking shawl possible.
Yeah.
To really tie the whole thing together. Like now in like her old lady outfit and her old lady hair and wrinkles, and she's like, "What's that, dear?" And like she has
I'm
to kind of
deaf
like
in one ear.
You know what? Kudos to the acting of this woman because she really does seem much like older. Like she does a really good
job.
like fragile head turn where it's like, "What's going on? You have
Yeah.
to speak into my good ear. Let me get my horn." And then Maddox is like, "I'm gonna sing this song for you, Mama. Yeah,
And
when we were in the
she
car and I was
sings.
embarrassed, I'm not embarrassed no more. I'm gonna sing song for my mama." And so she does that, and you know, Ma smiles.
And Guy keels over and dies.
Yes. Yeah.
To which
Yeah.
point Ma gets up
Of old
and
age.
looks at the beach, and it's like, and then she keels over and dies.
Yeah.
Old. And then we have our two remaining survivors, that being Trent and Maddox.
Yeah.
And they're like, damn, we sure got old. This sucks. I found that, we found this old thing that, or this old journal that uses science to say why time is moving faster. Man,
Yeah.
I sure wish we could find a way to get out.
Yeah.
And yeah, so then they're like, well, I guess, should we keep trying to get out? And they're like, yeah, I mean, why wouldn't we?
Right.
To which Trent is like, well, even though time is moving considerably faster and every minute is several years of our life, want to build some sandcastles? And they're like, yeah. So they build
Yep.
sandcastles. And then this is the point where Trent decides to be like, oh, yeah, also that boy whose name I can't remember, he remembers, I can't remember. This is Nate speaking.
Right.
Not Trent.
I see. Right.
And he says, that boy that Nate can't remember the name to gave me a little message to decode, as I did earlier in the movie, and it was not really super important to bring up because
Yeah.
it's stupid.
We had a
but
legend and a key, and we thought we were so smart as
we
kids.
were so smart, but really we were just dumb kids.
Yeah.
Or were we? So then he decodes the message for shits and giggles
Yeah.
to find out that it says my uncle doesn't like the reef or something, or the coral,
Coral, yeah.
which is code, not code because he doesn't know. It essentially decodes for them, oh, that coral that we haven't seen
Yeah,
the whole
what the
movie.
fuck is that? We got like 10 establishing shots of the sea and the water, and this is like the first one where we look out to the waterscape and there's a fucking like coral reef just like there,
Yeah.
clear as day.
Oh, yeah.
Just very obvious and very large. I'm like, what the fuck did that grow over the perpetual? Like, no, evidently not, because the coral's apparently like time safe. So I don't
Yeah.
know what the fuck that's all about.
Yeah, so they're just like, okay, I guess we got to go swim for the coral. So
Well,
yeah.
furthermore, just a note about the sandcastles real quick. Evidently,
Okay, yeah.
the sandcastles are a strong enough story beat that the graphic novel this is based off of is named Sandcastles.
Yeah, I would imagine it's probably something that's played into a little more in that.
Yeah, exactly. Here, it felt so ridiculous and empty. It's like, what? Did you even what? And then when they built the sandcastles, they don't even like stay long on the moment. I mean, they have like a 2 millisecond thing where it's like, the simplicity of life. You think we feel like
yeah,
children?
but that in real time was like a whole movie.
Yeah, like what? You can't tell me. But yeah, so that's just my critique about the sandcastle scene. Anyway, yeah, my uncle doesn't
Yeah.
like coral. It's too
They're
crunchy.
like, oh, okay, we got to go to the coral. So yeah, they swim out to this reef and they start swimming through the coral to make it out of the beach.
Yeah, there's
and
a little tunnel under the water. So
Yeah,
they hold
so-
their breath and go.
they do. And
Longer than
then,
I could ever hold.
Oh
my
yeah,
breath.
for sure.
Holy sweet Christ.
No way.
I would die. I'd be
Yeah.
dead.
So Maddox gets caught on one of the coral things because her shirt gets all like twirled up, and so then them trying to get it off, and then it cuts to who else but M. Night Shyamalan,
The van driver.
up on the mountaintop that's overlooking. And throughout the film, just several times we've seen like a little like twinkle up there, and Trent was like, "That's a camera."
Sure.
And
Yep.
sure enough, it was several cameras and M. Night Shyamalan taking notes. So then we have him talking on the radio to his boss and is like, don't worry, the experiment's over. Everybody's dead.
Of trial 73, 6, 5,
70 something. And then the radio person responds with, "Are you sure? You know what happened last time?" And then he's like, "Yeah, I'm sure. I sat here for a minute and a half, and they definitely drowned."
Yep.
And then
I know that the record for holding one's breath is roughly 7 minutes, but I'm pretty sure that a minute and a half is more than enough to be certain that these people died.
Yeah, so then he packs up his stuff and goes back to the lab, which was at the resort, and here is the big reveal. The beach is a natural anomaly that through some half-assed science makes time go faster on this beach alone, and they use this as a space to essentially take people who have diseases or sicknesses and give them drugs via the drinks that were specially tailored to them.
Yep.
And then they send them to this beach where they essentially have their lives accelerated so they could do what is lifetimes of research in a day. And they justify this with, we're saving millions of lives by developing medicines that could never be possible in this time span, so we're doing a good thing.
Yep.
And then you think the movie ends, and I think the movie should have ended because that would have been ambiguous enough.
Yeah.
But alas, that couldn't be the case. So then we see the man who we saw before on the beach, who Trent asked his occupation for, and he said, "I am a cop."
Yep.
So then we see a hand off camera hand a journal over to him and say, "You're a cop, right?" And he's like, And then cut to the resort staff getting ready for their next batch of people to come in.
Yep.
And also some meaningless, stupid scene of the boy whose name I can't remember being told not to play with certain kids, but other kids are okay from the manager.
Yep.
And then reveal both what the hell are their names? Both Trent and Maddox survived, and they made it back, and they're going to blow the whole operation. And then needless scene of them not dying,
not drowning,
which we figured out because they didn't drown.
Yeah. If your shirt got caught, and that was the last thing that was known, like you're swimming underwater, your friend gets their shirt caught, and you're helping them try to pry it loose. And that's the last thing anybody expected. That's the last thing anybody knew about you. And they go, well, they could have survived. And then you come out and you had survived. And you had to conceptualize, just off the top of your head, how you would have survived, not knowing whether or not your shirt ever got loose on the thing it was caught on. Perhaps the first thing you would think is, oh, well, I guess your shirt did get loose. I think you swam out and survived. And that's exactly how they did it. Yeah. Yeah, so that warrants a fucking scene that we couldn't just see them survive for some goddamn... Anyway.
Yeah, so they survive, and then, again, pretty hollow scenes of them being like, oh, we're the police here now, and the whole operation is coming down.
Don't drink that!
And, yeah. Movie ends.
Fucking mercifully.
All right, yeah. What a movie. I already know that is going to be a nightmare to edit, so I hope that was concise enough for you to know you probably don't need to see this movie. But yeah, let's get into it. Any standout moments? Any performances you thought were good, bad, in between?
I thought Prissa did good. Jaron was fine.
Yeah, honestly,
Charles acted pretty well. Whoever acted as him, like the actors ain't bad.
Yeah, I thought that most of the acting was pretty good. Honestly, like Patricia was probably one of the weakest ones, but like even still, not like bad.
She just wasn't given much to do.
Yeah.
That's the thing. That's unfortunate. Like, she just wasn't given much to do.
Like not great lines to work with and stuff.
Yeah, I mean, like, dude, she delivered. Like, all the actors are competent in this film.
Yeah.
Save for M. Night Shyamalan. Fucking shocker. Like, he really... not very good. Not very good at all.
Yeah, no, for sure.
But, like, yeah, I mean, like, yeah, they're fine. Everyone's good. That's the problem. Everyone's good. Like, they're professional.
Yeah.
Everyone in this movie acted professionally. I mean, there were instances where that wasn't the case, like instances. But, like, you know, in all, everyone here was a professional actor and did their job well.
Yeah, not a whole lot to say about the actors. Were there any, like, scenes or anything that, like, you were like, oh, that was cool, or complete opposite of, like, wow, that was dumb?
I liked the bone snapping. That was good. Good body horror there. Pretty efficiently done. A lot of the stuff that really had the potential to be, like, cinematically brilliant was cut away from.
Yeah, that's
like
true.
the tumor removing.
Yeah, there was a lot of really weird editing stuff. But yeah, there was. I really disliked when they found the journal. We obviously didn't really touch on that too much in the plot recap. But yeah, I thought it was dumb because it was just a fucking journal. Did they say whose journal it was?
Some rando who also died on the beach.
Yeah, so the scene where they found the journal
kind of pointless.
Dumb,
I guess. It was the only evidence they had.
Well, I mean,
which I guess is the point of it, but I feel like they could have done pretty much anything else.
No, I mean, I don't know. It wasn't even so much that there was a journal or whatever. I just hate that it was like there was like, again, like scientific reasoning of like, yes, the material at which the rocks are made of and the magnets of the earth cause time to move, blah, blah, blah. And it's like, why is this just written in a fucking journal that is left on the beach?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's dumb. Maybe it was better explained and I just missed it because I was so fucking bored.
I mean, like, I get it. Time is relative. Right. Yes. Like, things like gravity can impact something like the flow of time. Yeah, I get it. Fine. It is not completely unfounded science.
Again, it's not even so much that like that's such bullshit science. It's so unrealistic. For me, it's more like, again, it's like leave some mystery, some intrigue to it. Like, I don't need to know the science of what, because like that's what makes it like mystic and like interesting, because you're like, oh man, like I wonder what is it about this beach. But then as soon as somebody's like, oh, this is what it is, it's like, oh, okay, yeah, that's why.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I don't know who's gonna walk into the movie being like, time accelerated. That's bullshit, man.
Yeah, show me some hard science or I am out of here.
And they go, you know, magnets, and they're gonna go, oh, okay, now I can enjoy. Thank you. Good. And I guess the coral is like magnet repel, whatever the fuck.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, why is the coral the way out? What?
It's a frustrating movie. It's just not well done. And you know, like even like the good stuff I hear people say about it is like, yeah, if you're going in for
Sorry about that, listener.
Dude, your cat is insane.
She is. I don't even know what she's chasing right now.
Her vision. You crazy. Anyway, yeah, like even the good stuff to say about it is like, look, if you're going in for like a good science fiction movie, maybe skip this one. But the deeper themes. Ooh, have you ever thought about getting old?
That shit's scary.
Oh, boy, is that relatable. Made me think.
Yeah.
I mean, like, yeah, you know what concept I never heard before and needed told to me in like little segments. You know, like sometimes time flies in the grand scale of things. The little stuff we argue about, we get caught up in, and really, it's not all that important if we were all on our deathbeds. This is stuff I just don't think people hear this stuff at all.
Yeah, I don't know. This whole movie seems like it is like the footnote of a better story. Like, honestly, once they did the reveal, like, I wasn't like, oh, brother. Like, I was like, okay, that is, like, kind of an interesting concept with the concept of a beach that time is accelerated on. Like, that is a really interesting and creative way to take advantage of that for science.
That's how time acceleration has been done before.
Yeah. I just, like... My thought when that scene happened was, like, why isn't the movie about this? And there was a brief thing of like, oh, here's the beach and how it works. Okay, now let's get back to the movie about how we're doing this.
Right.
Instead of it being the footnote of the beach movie. That was my thought personally.
No, yeah, frankly, come to think of it, like, it would have been more interesting if we knew more or less from the beginning what they were being monitored for, why they were being monitored. Like, that would have been perhaps more interesting to me.
Yeah, even like... If we, the audience, know that they're being monitored, but we do not know why they're being monitored, and the cast is unaware. Right. They're just like, why are we on this beach that moves fast? But we, as the audience, knows. I feel like that also has some interesting things. Instead of us, like, also being like, what's going on? Like, why is this beach thingy?
Right.
You know? I don't know. There's a lot of different things they could have done to this movie, and I think they could have made it marginally better.
Yeah, I just don't know. Like, clinical trials as the bit.
Yeah, again, like, I think that's an interesting thing. As a big payoff thing, it wasn't, like, that great, which is, again, why I feel like it would be, like, a better thing if the beach thing was a footnote of this grander thing.
Right.
Instead, yeah, it's just like, I don't know. It's very dumb. Very dumb. I don't know what else I can say, honestly.
Yeah, and like no, like I'm just frustrated that people like if I'm sitting here talking about how the movie's uninteresting, that somebody might just be like, "Have you considered the deeper themes though?" It's like, yeah, they're pretty heavy about the deeper themes. Come to think about it, like honestly, like I don't know. You know what the problem is when people have these themes brought to them is not that they've never thought about them before. It's that they fade from memory and attention goes elsewhere. And you know what you really need to recall the deeper themes you're talking about is someone to walk up to you and say, "Oh, hey, by the way, remember in the grand view of things, sometimes the stupid stuff, like envision yourself being 90. Like really think about that for a second. Like you're like 90, you're old, time has passed, and think about all the people you have issues with, and if you really just never want to talk to them and never want to mend your issues." And then you'll go, "Right, I haven't thought about that in a while. And now that you're having me think about it for a moment, you're right. You don't need a whole bad movie to raise that point again, because people are going to leave the theaters and they'll be like, wow, that movie stuck with me for roughly 3 hours afterwards, up to maybe 24.
Not even that, really man.
Impactful.
We saw the movie like an hour ago, and I couldn't recap the plot.
Yeah, we're in our mid-20s. Yeah, well, I mean, for the deeper themes, the plot is a fucking mess, and I think the people who really talk about it positively probably, stipulate that fact. But the deeper themes seems to be like the thing carrying the weight for the merit of this film. And maybe I'm like 25 right now and can't really feel that sting. Maybe if I was like 55 and I went in there and the wrinkles in my skin are starting to show and the twinkle in my eye is starting to fade as if it hasn't faded already, then maybe when I go see this film, I'm like, I have been thinking about getting older. Man, this really hits home. I should call my brother. I don't have a brother, by the way.
I didn't know you have a brother.
But if I had a brother, I'd say I should call my brother or that old friend I haven't spoken to since we had a poker game goes south. I don't fucking know. Like, that stuff. And so that's kind of the only merit of this film that I see getting discussed. And even still, I don't think the film did anything spectacular adding to that conversation.
Yeah, I don't know. I think I'm just going to have to say what I said before. Interesting, like, short story concept. I'm very interested to look into the graphic novel. Not a great film idea.
Yeah. Yeah, because dude, it wasn't intense. It wasn't any of that. Like, seriously, like, if you and 5 friends got in a room and go, okay, you're in a time chamber where roughly every 30 minutes is like a year of your life. Go.
Yeah.
Then all of you could craft a better scenario hook than what happened here on the beach today.
Yeah, I feel like this movie was made just to like capitalize on the fact that like CGI aging is a thing. Because of course there were like several, like especially with the kids, it was like, oh no, that's a different actor playing this character now.
Right.
But when it was like the parents getting older, like it just felt like it was like, all right, this is the movie that CGI like aging up and de-aging was made for.
Yeah, maybe I don't.
Which another thing I'll bring up. I thought about this the entire movie.
Sure.
So the character of Trent.
Yeah.
Was played by an actor named Alex Wolff, I think.
Yes.
I've seen him in some other stuff.
Right.
But anyway, he has a pretty prominent mole like on his face.
Right.
And I think that because again, there were several actors that played this character throughout the various ages, but he was kind of like, I think, the big celebrity name of like, this is the actor who's playing this character.
Yeah.
And so with him having a really like defined mole, it was funny because that means they either had to find like other people who look similar enough and had the mole, or they had to like in makeup like add the mole, which I think is just kind of a funny concept.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah. I don't know. The character is just kind of announced nuance, which is of course not how nuance works, right? Like when Crystal had to come to like grips with the fact that like beauty isn't eternal and shouldn't be the thing.
And by comes to grips, you mean does not come to grips with that and dies?
Well, you know, as she's trying to come to grips with that, she kind of brings up this point where she's just like, I thought beauty was and like status was the most important thing.
Did we watch the same movie? Because
there was a man I loved once.
Ugh, that was...
He wasn't beautiful, nor was he financially sound. His name was Giuseppe. But I loved him. And I left him because of beauty and status. And look what I've wrought as a result of that.
I don't know.
Oh, me.
Like,
oh, pain.
Yes, that was a scene.
Now don't look at me.
In the movie, but like, I feel like everything else that happened after that point completely makes that irrelevant. Because again,
100%? Oh yeah,
because it's like, oh man, come on, child, looks are everything. Oh, you know what? Maybe looks aren't everything. I once loved a man, and I gave it all away for my selfish reasoning.
Right.
And then, like, 10 minutes go by. I'm hideous. Don't look at me. I am nothing without my looks and beauty.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah. Completely undoes whatever growth was meant to be. It was more like a passing idea. Like, maybe love comes from a place that is deeper than attraction and desire for power. Anyway, and then, like, you know, the brief scene with Maddox and Midsize where Maddox is like, you're the youngest old person here on the beach, and I'm kind of growing and becoming an old person, and I feel like the actual old people here won't really understand when I talk about the changes I'm going through, and the strange filters that are placed over my eyes as the kind of colors in my life become duller or something like that. I feel like I'm looking upon the world with such childlike whimsy. Midsize. And so, you know, like, that scene, I guess.
Do you want to get
in? For a child who grows to the age of 50 from the age of 6, we don't see a lot of literal character development.
Yeah,
from Trent,
okay.
Who stays like the same from 6 to 50.
This is something that, like, I was curious about going in. I thought they addressed it, but then seemingly did not. Right. So I feel like one of the first questions, again, that kind of gets brought up when it's like, okay, what would happen if you aged a year every 20 minutes or, you know, whatever the hell.
Yeah.
One of the first questions is, like, what about your, like, mind, like, your maturity? You know, like, if you physically age, you know, 5 years in a, like, 20 or 30 minute span, are you then in that 20 or 30 minute span a 6-year-old in the body of a 10-year-old, or are you, as far as mind and body concerned, a 10-year-old? And that was something I was very curious about, because again, I was like, oh, are we going to have like 80 or like 50-year-olds that again are like have the sensibility of a 6-year-old? And
because that is like the natural question that arrives. Like, your body ages in a weird kind of time. Does your mind age in a weird kind of time, or is that an effective experience?
And when, like, not Maddox, I keep saying Maddox. I don't know why I keep wanting to say Trent and Kara are having this, like, a heart-to-heart moment before they have sex, I guess. I believe they say something of, like, I feel like our minds are changing too. Like, very, like, ham-fisted.
Which I guess is like a hormone thing, maybe, is what the movie tries to say.
Yeah, so at that point I thought, oh, okay, maybe they are like gaining maturity through this. But then there were just moments later, it was like, oh no, that's like clearly somebody who doesn't know better.
Yep. Yeah, no, the movie's answer to that question is whichever we want at the time to service the film.
Yeah.
And it's completely unclear, and it's completely muddled, and there's no decision on it one way or the other. And sometimes Trent is like an 8-year-old in a 50-year-old's body, and sometimes he's like a 50-year-old looking back. Wasn't I silly when I was 8? Yeah. And it's like, what? I'm sorry?
Man. Well, with that, do you want to talk some reviews?
Sure, let's talk some reviews. I don't know, man. There's so much. I do want to talk these reviews because, but like, seriously, like, I seriously don't get M. Night Shyamalan's like thing. Like, this is so, it wasn't even like laughably bad. It was so bland. It was so incredibly bland and confused, this film. I don't understand where, like, with all the fumbling and muddling and insufficient storytelling, that's just like, think about time and age. In the grand scheme of things, the petty human stuff is kind of petty, isn't it? And then you go, yeah, okay, fine. Thanks, M. Night. Do we need an hour and 45 minutes of bad movie to make me think about that?
Like, this movie, it's so frantic, which, frantic scenes and just, like, feeling can service a film. But, like, I feel like it was frantic in all of, like, the wrong spots.
Right.
Like, in all the moments where it's like, oh my god, there's a lot going on, like, you should feel disoriented because the characters feel disoriented. It was like, those parts were not so frantic, and it was more like, okay, the 3 children are running on the beach, and it has, like, weird editing where you're like, what the fuck is going on?
Right.
Yeah, just weird.
And look, if you wanted to tell a story about, like, how in the long arm of time, petty human disagreement kind of seems irrelevant, really, then it would have been much more efficient to focus on one family with one issue in this weird kind of Twilight Zone. But, like, it's a movie that wants to say, like, petty human stuff isn't really relevant emotionally in the long span of time. And then is like, no, actually, it's a medical trial thought experiment about the needs of the few and the needs of the many. And it's like, what movie do you want to be? Because it seems like you want to do the first message, and then every single part of this story doesn't enforce that message, except in very small little segments that do not get a point sufficiently, the point and the depth you seem to think that it does. And so, what? You could have both theoretically. I don't know. It seems kind of like a fucking, like, it seems like you need more time to tell that story, either in, like, a book, or I don't know how the graphic novel does it, or even, like, a television series, for Christ's sake. It seems like you need more time to really do both those things to me. But this movie just failed at it, frankly.
You go to a beach to spend a day with your family, but you get old. This is The Twilight Zone.
And at the end of the episode, it's just like, and that's when Trent learned that sometimes when your sibling steals your clothes without asking you, maybe it's not worth dwelling on for a whole day. But he had to learn that lesson the hard way, with 45 years on the bill to come here in the Twilight Zone.
Well, with that, are you ready to read some reviews?
Yeah, let's read some reviews.
This is from Ashton Alexander 4 days ago. This is a 5-star review that I will be reading verbatim. I hate to be that guy, but it really feels like this movie went way over everyone's head. No spoilers. This film felt frantic, hurried, and all over the place at times. That's exactly the point of the film. Strangers get plopped onto a beach aging rapidly and have to immediately worry about dying. Yet, there are people in these comments worrying about character development. I think folks are a little too used to watching TV shows these days that have run times to allow that to be developed. Visually, the movie is fantastic. The shots are intimate and interesting, and I found myself cracking a smile a couple times because of the beauty of the cinematography. The acting was exactly what the script called for. Minimal. As far as acting chops, let's not pretend like Alex Wolff, Gail Bernal, and Vicky Krieps haven't churned out amazing performances in their careers, specifically in the thriller genre. Again, I truly feel like people are used to heavy, heavy narratives to fully appreciate this film for the 2-hour ride that it is. You'll probably either love it or hate it, apparently. Either way, it makes a great theater experience. Also, if you're looking for a genuinely scary movie, this isn't it.
Yeah.
I don't know. This review, it feels to me like it's like character development, things of a story that make things interesting. You don't need them.
What I'll say to that is, like, he's like, look, the audience is supposed to feel like the characters are feeling. And that's fair. You know what? Frankly, that's fair. I understand that argument where it's like the characters are in this frenetic, strange situation, and the audience should feel the same confusion and emotions that the characters feel within it. The problem is, most of the people attending this movie figure out what's going down on the island beach thing and have appropriate reactions that the characters need about 45 to 50 minutes to arrive at, and then age drastically. For some reason, it seems like everybody else in the theater gets what's going down here, while the characters still grope about blindly in the air, going, what's going on? The age, time, should we try to figure this out? And if you took 7 people in the theater and put them on the fucking island, and someone's like, I'm going to climb out of here, they're going to be like, before you do that, let's think about security measures. And then when someone else is like, I'm going to swim out of here, they're going to go, that doesn't sound like a wise fucking option. So for you to be like, oh, the audience goers are supposed to feel the same kind of franticness, they'd have the same reaction if they were in the situation. The movie was made to keep the audience as blind as the people are throughout the entire thing, and I guarantee you every single one of them is looking at these characters going, none of this is sensible to react to in the situation they're in. And furthermore, as a work of story and as a work of fiction, this is just bad development. So, you know, if I don't feel the way the characters feel because the characters are being, like, intentionally dumbed down or reacting extremely, then I'm going to have to look at the story as well and say, oh, that's bad too.
Also, I feel like to feel what the characters are feeling, we need to have, like, the same baseline knowledge that the characters have.
Right.
And
the characters have to be relatable.
Yes, that too. But to me, that means, like, again, like, if the characters are like, I don't understand what is going on this beach, time is moving faster, or, like, they're still trying to figure out, like, we should learn that as they learn that, which I guess we do from a film, like as you are watching the film, it is not explicitly stated, like, this is what's happening until the reveal that the kids and everything.
Right.
But the entire fucking marketing of the movie is centered around, like, the beach that makes you old. So you can't go in unless you literally just blindly pick a movie you've never heard of. You can't go into the film like, oh, I am on the same level as these characters as far as what I understand, like, is going on in this world. So how are you supposed to, like, suspend your disbelief and understand what these characters are going through and, like, thinking in those moments and relate to that and not be like, you fucking idiot, time is moving fast, like
right.
Yeah, why are you not getting this if you come in with this preconceived notion?
Right. And but, like, to your point, like, to feel what the characters are feeling, it's probably important that the characters feel something even remotely similar to what other people would feel in that situation.
Yeah.
Instead of being these weird kind of irrational caricatures of people and being like, oh, what do you mean that the story's lacking and you need character development? Like, you feel as confused as they feel. It's like, no, we don't feel confused like they feel. And the story's bad for that, amongst many things. Yeah. That is the failure of this film, Volume 7, Chapter 5, Article 362. You know, like, fucking A.
Well, let's hear your 5-star review.
Yeah, let's talk about it. Because on our itinerary of movies to go see, we're going to go see The Rock's new boat movie.
Yes.
What's it called?
Jungle Cruise.
Right. Yes, Jungle Cruise, The Rock's new boat.
The Rock's new boat. That's
the subtitle to the film. Yeah, so which, to my understanding, is based off of the ride at Disney World.
Yes.
But the opening of this 5-star review disagrees with that.
Ah, yes.
And you know what? They're probably right, frankly. I don't know too much about it. But anyway, here's
know
Katie
nothing.
Stoops rating 5 stars for Old and opening with some opinion. So here we go. In a time when Disney is remaking classics like The African Queen and claiming the story is based on a theme park ride, thank God we still have M. Night Shyamalan. I've read that Old was based on a graphic novel, but it was truly original Shyamalan characters from Philadelphia on vacation, seemingly unimportant hobbies.
Oh, you know what? They
character
did mention
quirks.
they were from Philadelphia.
Yeah, right. Seemingly unimportant hobbies and character quirks that become important. Scientific realism, with the exception of one broken rule of the universe, actually magical realism, and a twist ending. The camera work was fantastic. The ensemble cast was great. The scenes on the beach made me uncomfortable in all the ways a horror movie should make one uncomfortable, plus about 7 more. And the end provided the satisfying answers that a lot of modern thrillers either forget or neglect to include. My only criticism is that sometimes the quality of the scripted dialogue wasn't up to the snuff of the rest of the components of the film. Apparently, all filmmakers these days don't think audience members are smart enough to figure out what's going on unless we're told directly, over and over. Time goes fast on the beach. Got it. No need to explain why every element of the story is the way it is. Those of us who read books and such can explain the tougher concepts to the Marvel fanatics over dinner while they try to explain which Avengers backstory is getting made next.
God,
Spoilers.
so pretentious.
Yeah, right? Oh, God. What I like is they have this pretension, and they're just like, and that's why Old is a masterpiece, Marvel fans. Anyway, spoilers beyond this point, because they get a little bit specific here. Finally, I'd just like to say that the reviews, cough, cough, New York Times, saying that the film is anti-scientific research propaganda, ? Are wrong. If anything, it's anti-unethical research propaganda. Also, if you want to make comparisons to the coronavirus pandemic, I'd say the best you can get from this story is the idea that isolating a few people for their entire lives in order to save a large group of people who may become ill in the future is at best anti-quarantine. And that's that person's 5-star review. Lot to unpack there.
Yeah. So reading reviews is a new thing here. Well,
Yeah.
This is a new thing that we've started.
Absolutely.
This is the second time we've done it.
Yep.
And this is the second batch of reviews where we've had at least one that was like, Marvel movies.
That's so true.
It's like,
Yeah, because the dude for Escape Room. was
God,
just
it's like fucking-
This movie was worse than Can You Imagine Endgame?
Yeah. Look, I like Marvel movies. Do I think that they're like cutting edge cinema?
Right.
Like, I don't think so, no. But, like, I just hate this idea of, like, yeah, these, like, critically acclaimed movies that have made a lot of money and a lot of people seem to like, those are actually bad.
Right.
Because I don't like them.
Yeah.
Because I think I'm better than people who like them.
Fucking dumb.
Yeah, just, like, grow up.
I
Shut
haven't
up.
seen the Marvel movies. I've seen Iron Man. I saw Avengers, the first one, when it aired. Those are the two. And again, there's no fucking way they are so bad that they deserve this amount of hassle and shit. And, like, the whole Scorsese saying the Marvel films aren't cinema bit is its own thing. But again, I will point back to my little spiel at the beginning of this about the inherent flaw in trying to quantify your criticism of art. You could lay out every single thing that you think makes the Marvel movies bad. And if we go back through every single movie that you enjoy or enjoy watching or quote-unquote guilty pleasure, every single time some critique you've had of the Marvel movies as to why they're lower than your expectation of film are going to be present in the movies that you love, enjoy, and are in your heart. And then you're going to say, oh, well, it's acceptable here because it's actually ironically, or it's not really quite so bad, though. And, you know, the rest of the movie, whatever fucking shit you want to go on about that. But there is no critique that you can try to quantify for art that will not guaranteeably become a point of hypocrisy if we go rooting around all the shit you enjoy, because every single person has stuff that they enjoy in spite of stuff that they think is technically insufficient. And they either try to cover up their insecurity by saying, well, I enjoy it ironically, or they're just blind to it and don't see how much of a losing battle they have to fight when they try to quantify good versus bad art.
I think a good rule of thumb is, like, if any review or anything like that, if it has within its review, like, oh, this movie is good, this other insert movie is bad, like, just shut up. You're stupid. Like, it doesn't need to be compared to something else. Like, is this movie a good movie or not? That has nothing to do with your pretentious feelings about the Marvel movies.
Right.
And belittling people who enjoy stuff like that.
Yeah. And I don't mean to imply that you can't point to something and say, the writing of this is bad.
No, certainly.
You can point to aspects and say, this is subpar. But the funny thing about it is all the aspects can be terrible and make it not a quote-unquote bad movie. Because art is subjective. This is the thing. Like, good, bad is the wrong... Yeah, it's hard. It's hard. Okay, so I'll say good, bad is not a good... or is not a legitimate bar to say whether or not it is enjoyable or not. And kind of there... Christ, it's weird. Because and you can't criticize people for enjoying something as if they're just fucking troglodytes for liking Marvel.
Well, yeah, even let's even get off the Marvel thing. They were like, those of us who actually read books. It's like, fuck you.
Christ above, right? Hey, look, if you read so many goddamn books, what are you doing going to see Old by M. Night Shyamalan? Is that a fucking, like... What is that? The next
Your genius
jest?
Is showing.
Yeah, seriously. Like, what the fuck is this? Get out of here. Christ. Read books. Cough, cough. New York Times.
Well, I don't know about you, but I feel like I've kicked this person's dumb review enough. You want to get to our 1-star reviews?
Yeah. Fuck you, Katie Stoops.
All right. This is Alicia Villo, I think. Anyway, this is 5 days ago. This is a 1-star review that I will be reading verbatim. I've never written a review for a movie before, but I felt compelled to warn others before they spend their money on this movie. Within the first 5 minutes, the poor writing and acting gave me a gut feeling that I should walk away. But the trailer was so good, I thought it must get better. Wrong! The trailer was and is the only good thing about this movie. Oh man. I was laughing at the most scary parts of the movie because everything was such thinly veiled commentary on society. The beautiful lady who turns ugly and twisted with age, the parents who fight but realize what really matters is each other, the successful surgeon who's actually crazy and racist, etc. This movie gave me content whiplash.
Yep.
Literally, you cannot go 2 minutes without the characters screaming for attention on a different issue.
That is true.
If you feel the need to watch this movie, go ahead. But don't watch it in theaters, and definitely don't expect it to be any kind of thriller. I spent more time proofreading and editing this review than the writers did on making this movie. Great concept, poorly executed. Which I feel pretty inclined to agree with that.
The content whiplash and the not going 2 minutes without characters screaming for attention on a different issue is spot on.
Yeah, that was what I was trying to get at with my short thoughts on it. I don't know if I
and like they are correct. Like when literally screaming for another issue, like some point starts to develop until a literal holler, like hey everybody over here, look at this thing happening now in the movie, focus on this. Like that's seriously how it feels and how it more or less goes. So that's really. And, you know, I'm sure if you time it out, maybe it's more than 2 minutes per issue. But it feels like 2 minutes per issue. And so they're kind of spot on with my experience of it from there, at least. So
one-star review.
Before I read this review, I'll make a note. I know it seems kind of strange to rip on people for saying that there's a ridiculousness to trying to critique art and view it as legitimate, good, bad, what have you. from somebody who is doing a podcast where at the end of this we will give a rating scale and spend like roughly an hour and a half every time just ripping on something. And that's fair. You know, like even still, I took some point where like I was like, I see people saying that like the themes are good and stuff on this, but like this movie isn't what you need. You don't need this movie to highlight this. You know, so fair. What I'll say is, if for you, any of these people are like, hey man, I'm turning 50. This movie really touched me in my old sense. Like, look, I'm not trying to say like that's not legitimate and you know like get it somewhere else, bud. You know, but I will.
What I'll say is, I don't think there's anything wrong with critiquing movies.
Right.
I think that the problem comes in when you start saying other people are stupid for liking movies.
Well, look, I mean, like, this person's like, man, those Marvel movies, though, fuck them. And, you know, I'm going to sit here eventually at some point, right? And I'm going to be like, yeah, Citizen Kane was phenomenal. And yet there's people giving 5 stars to Old. You know, like, yeah, of course, like, fucking A. You know, like, that's just the type of thing where it's like, for me, like, I can't see how you walk into this film and try to argue on the merits of like its dialogue and construction. Like I don't see how you do it. I get it if you write a review where you're like, it touched me and I was emotionally primed for this film and it really highlighted some of that for me. So, you know, I get that. But if you come in and you're just like, this movie is just really well written, and the characters, how funny, iconic Shyamalan. Like, you know, like I just thought it's not me. It doesn't touch me like that. So fair enough. So I apologize to Katie Stoops for being like, fuck you, Katie. You know, look, we like what we like. We don't like what we don't like, and that's all. That's all fine. I just got to tell you why Old didn't do it for me.
I will say this.
And I'll appeal to the majority if we got to argue about it. Look at the ratio for good to bad on this film. Anyway, no, but that's not an argument. So, yeah, okay.
I'll leave it at this. If you liked Old, come to Delaware and fight me.
I will fight you over Old.
Let's read more reviews and pick people apart.
Okay. So with that, if you're like, hey, buddy, you don't get to say what movies are good or bad, I'll say I don't. And every single one of these has to be taken as this is why I think this movie's fucking laughable. And so does Adam. All right, so Adam here, Adam Lamparello says, the 5-star reviews cannot be real. They must be employees of the production company. I am only editing my review to emphasize that the positive reviews cannot be genuine. They all spew the same nonsense about how the concept and topic were so interesting. Well, imagine if you wrote a paper or article that addressed an intriguing issue, but your article was horribly written and incoherent. That is this movie. It is so insulting to the average person's intelligence that it borders on fraud. I don't know how. We'll have to look up what fraud is specifically because I don't know if that applies. Anyway, this movie is so bad that it makes you want to. It makes you want to sue the filmmaker. The dialogue is shockingly atrocious and often silly. The chemistry between the characters is non-existent. The plot is one-dimensional, and that leads to extreme redundancy in the scenes. Ergo, one character dies, and we all know that someone is next in a few minutes. The character development is superficial and cliché. The underlying reason for why the people are put on the beach is implausible and, quite frankly, ridiculous. The movie could have probed with nuance and complexity the emotional, physical, and psychological consequences of aging, but it utterly fails to do so, in part because the director obviously didn't think through the plot, the dialogue, the characters, believing that the premise alone would carry the movie. The ending, how the last 2 characters survive, is based on a discovery so contrived and unoriginal that you begin to feel like the director has no regard for the audience's intelligence or common sense. Simply put, it is a terrible movie, both in theory and execution. No reasonable person could possibly approve of this nonsense, particularly given the juvenile and at times incoherent dialogue. Definitely a candidate for worst movie of 2021. 23 people found this helpful.
Yeah, it does really feel like that like choral thing that we ripped on already. It really did feel like M. Night Shyamalan was like, fuck, how are they going to get off of this beach? And then like, it's like, oh, wait. Didn't they do some decoding? Oh, okay, we'll make this. Like, it really felt like that was, like, really shoehorned in there.
Well, look, man, this touches on the same point I brought up, where it's like, if you wanted this movie to be about time is fleeting, live for the now, some of the stuff that seems important right now is really kind of petty and ridiculous, then that's the movie you should have made. Because you're really putting all your chips on the sci-fi, psychological thriller type of thing, and most of your plot was not that. So, yeah. I kind of want to keep going with the one-star reviews because all these people speak my soul and in funny ways.
Yeah, I don't know. There's a lot. We could be here all day reading one-star reviews, though. So,
oh, boy, could we.
So,
boy, would it be cathartic.
So I will say to you,
then we'd never
viewer,
play Rock Band.
Yeah, that's true. Viewer, please, if you have a hankering for more ripping on old, please read the one-star reviews on Google.
Because they got it.
And with that, would you like to do our rating?
Yeah, let's do our rating.
I would give that a pretty solid out of...
Kids, no good.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that saves it from being more or less equivalent with my Escape Room 2 rating is the fact that clearly all the production money and quality and professionalism for creating a film were present. Just not any part M. Night seemed to be involved in is the thing. His self-insert character annoys me. His literal
Apparently, I think that's like a staple of M. Night Shyamalan movies, too, is that he always has a cameo.
No, not even that, but like the main character is pretty clearly meant to be like,
This is me.
Oh,
If
okay.
I were
I
a
see what you're
child
saying.
in this
Well, actually,
situation.
funny thing, from what I have gathered, I feel like that is also kind of a staple of M. Night Shyamalan.
yeah. So M. Night self-inserts himself into the hero of the stories, and then self-inserts himself as him in the stories. And so, yeah, thanks, M. Night. So, yeah, pretty much anything that I feel like M. Night had control over explicitly suffered, and anything that was left to professionals was clearly professional. And so, with that in mind, that's why I have to give this a out of.
Oh.
Because M. Night needs to find a new career, and frankly should refund me my ticket.
You know, I saw a couple reviews that said that same thing.
Yeah.
And with that, I will leave you with the advice of society. Stop putting stock in M. Night Shyamalan movies.
Yeah.
Like, as we've stated, it seems like we as a people keep giving him the power to keep making movies, and then we keep getting disappointed with the quality of those movies, and we're like, he'll get them next time. Guys, he's not going to get them next time.
Seriously, the only reason I wanted to go see this film, if I thought it was going to be good, I'd say, well, it's not good podcast material. But, I thought it was going to be atrocious, as is M. Night par for the course. So we're going to keep seeing M. Night movies as they come out, because I don't expect them to improve at all.
Yeah.
And with that, goodbye, and good M. Night.
We'll catch you next time.